I love fighting games. You might be already able to tell that from the arcade stick I have here in the background. I have it always in the background. But despite what me owning this might insinuate, I don't consider myself a very competitive person or a very competitive player. Here's a quick look at it, by the way. I would not necessarily recommend this one since it's not PlayStation 5 compatible, but if you don't care about that, I mean, I like the weight. I like the way it feels. I would look some more buttons, but okay. I'm already getting distracted. Moving on. A lot of the time people are talking about fighting games. There's always this talk about appealing to casuals, and I consider myself a casual player. I always have. And I've never regretted buying a single game by NetherRealm Studios until Mortal Kombat 1. That might not be in itself a very unpopular opinion, but I think a lot of people have this like a lot of the people you'll find on YouTube have their specific reasons why they don't like Mortal Kombat 1. It usually comes down to the gameplay. I don't think that's where Mortal Kombat 1 has gone wrong, but again, I'm not a very gameplay centric or competitive focused player. I don't hate the gameplay to Mortal Kombat 1 at all. I feel like I can't really get across my opinion of Mortal Kombat 1 without first giving you some insight into my history with fighting games, my history with Mortal Kombat 1, giving you some insight into how a casual player looks at these different fighting games and how they've looked at them throughout the years. Of course, I don't speak for them all. More importantly, I want you to believe that I am a casual player, that I am the sort of player that Mortal Kombat and NetherRealm Studios is trying to appeal to. Maybe even the kind of player that games like Guilty Gear Strive are trying to appeal to when they sort of simplify their game. So up on the screen, I have every major fighting game I've played, going as far back as, well, technically Soul Calibur IV, as I'll explain, but really starting at Mortal Kombat 9. And what I'm going to do, keep in mind, this isn't an exhaustive list of all the fighting games I've played, but I'll get to that maybe around the Guilty Gear Strive portion. But what I want to do is I want to go through each of these games, give you a quick rundown of what my perspective was on each one as they came out. And then I want to explain how my relationship with Mortal Kombat evolved up until we get to Mortal Kombat 1. Now, that is a lot to go through just for me to talk about why I don't like Mortal Kombat 1. I get that. If you don't want to hear me go through my opinion on every single one of these games, well, not my opinion now, but my opinion back when I played these games for the first time, well, then you can go ahead. I'll put a link, or not a link, I'll put a timestamp up. And you can just go and skip to that. And with that, let's go.
Soul Calibur 4.
We begin with Soul Calibur 4. I was debating even actually talking about Soul Calibur 4 because it's kind of a weird one. It was technically my first fighting game, but when I played it, I actually didn't even ever have the words fighting game in my head. I never thought of it as a fighting game until years later when I realized it was, if that makes sense. To me, it was just Soul Calibur. Like, it was its own thing because I had played so little fighting games at that point. It never occurred to me that it was a fighting game. But I did play a significant amount of it, so I decided to keep it here on the list to start with. I did play it a lot, but I don't remember doing anything, if that makes sense. Like, I definitely don't remember doing any combos. What I do remember was I liked to play certain characters and use specific moves. Like, I'm gonna have to look the characters' names up, actually. I think it was, is it Killick? Was the guy with the bow? Yeah, Killick. Killick, and he had like this down spinning move, and I just loved to spam that online. That was basically my go-to. Voldo. I loved playing Voldo because he was so weird and he had that cool little backward stance. I just loved getting into stance and then doing stuff from that stance. But no real sense of what I was doing. Like, I'm just pressing buttons for my life or something. So at this point, I'm far and away from ever knowing any fighting game concepts. The reason I decided to keep it on, other than I just played it a lot, is this is pretty important because it was the first game where I ever encountered an arcade mode. Like, I remember clicking story mode and then going through the fights, and then they'll show you that ending fight, and I was like, what the hell was that? Even back then, I always thought that was like a really, really weird way to present a story. I didn't understand it. Now I kind of get where it comes from, but even still, I'm not a huge fan of it. But despite that, I still played through a lot of the story's characters because I just enjoyed the game so much. I played more offline and against the AI than I did online. And that is a theme that you're going to be seeing throughout most of these games. And despite my gripes with it, I thought Soul Calibur was super cool and super fun. Every once in a while, my friends would come over and play with me. It's kind of funny now to, like, I see the discourse about it, and it turns out that it's not a very beloved part of the franchise. It's actually kind of a low point, apparently. That's a bummer. But I'm already getting off track. That's not important. Let's just move on to the next game. Next up, Mortal Kombat 9. So in my head, before I started the video, I considered Mortal Kombat 9 my first fighting game. Whether or not you want to count Soul Calibur 4 is, again, it's up to you. It's not really important in the long run, because Mortal Kombat was the first fighting game that I bought with the intention of buying a fighting game, because I knew it was a fighting game at that point. So of course, and being a child in America, I knew that Mortal Kombat was a thing. You can't escape the kids talking about Mortal Kombat growing up. But unlike my friends, I never had any interest in playing it, like at all. I'm very unlike my friends. I'd say the main draw of Mortal Kombat, the violence, the gore, the fatalities, it actually kind of turned me off from the game. Like, I didn't want to try it. I didn't really like blood or gore or violence back then. I'm more okay with it nowadays, but it's still not why I play Mortal Kombat, but we'll get to that. So I had a friend who was very excited about this new Mortal Kombat game coming out, and some of his hype rubbed off on me, and then I went to look it up, and then it turned out, hey, they're rebooting Mortal Kombat. They're kind of starting it over. So I don't know, I kind of got interested, and I decided to pick this one up. I played through the story, and I immediately fell in love. I mean, I thought this game was just the coolest. Like, after playing through the whole story, I loved it. I went back and retroactively searched up all the lore. Like, I spent days reading about the lore of Mortal Kombat and trying to find out how did we get to this point in the story, to the point where I was answering people's questions about the lore on Reddit because I had read it so much. I love the characters. I love the crypt. I went back and watched the original Mortal Kombat movie because I had never seen that. I loved it. I remember my elation when I finally beat Shao Kahn, the final boss of the game. And despite violence and gore not being my thing, I actually thought the fatalities were really cool and they were a lot of fun. I thought they were really fun, really silly. I loved everything about Mortal Kombat 9. So it's through this game that I probably heard the first whisperings of the letters FGC, but I still didn't know anything about like frame data or cancels. I learned pretty early on that jump kicking was pretty effective against the AI, and that's pretty much all I would do is I'd spam jump kicks and some special moves against the AI whenever I could. And that would go on for quite a while as well. So at this point, I think it's safe to say that I'm still a pretty filthy casual. I didn't even know there was a competitive scene at all. All right. Anyways, moving on. All right. Real quick before I continue, I need to stress that what I'm telling you was my opinion of the game at the time, okay? My opinions of these games is not what it was when I picked them up, okay? I need to stress that. All right. Next up on the list is Street Fighter V and Tekken 7. I'm putting them both up together. Why? Because they both ended up in the same way. I didn't get into either one of them. So both of these games, I had practically no history with them at all. Of course I've heard of them. Of course you can't not have heard of Street Fighter. You can't not have heard of Tekken, but I just never played them at all. And I tried to get into both of them separately, and in both occasions the same exact thing happened. I just didn't really like it. I just didn't find it fun. So the first thing I did for both games was, like, you can figure out at this point what kind of player I am. I went straight into the story mode. And if you play the story mode to either of these games, granted, I do think Tekken 7's is a little bit better, but I mean this game had the worst story mode, I think, to this day, that of any fighting game I played. I hated it. I would have rather it had an arcade mode. Honestly, I hated it so much.
What have you been doing around here? And look at your hair. I know what it is. You must have found a girlfriend.
No, I didn't. Don't touch me. Hey, can't breathe.
But you still look so thin as a rail. You must eat more meat. Otherwise, your girlfriend won't like you.
I said I don't have a girlfriend. I give
Do you think you should stop them?
I give up.
So much. It's gonna be funny talking about that and then getting into Street Fighter 6. I almost feel like these games would have been better off without story modes, but I'm pretty sure them having one is the only reason I picked them up in the first place. Because I remember Street Fighter V didn't have one at the beginning. I didn't pick it up until it finally released one, and then I played it, hated it, didn't really play much else of it. Now I did try to learn some stuff on my own in the training mode, but these games, well, they definitely did not hold your hand, okay? And I mean, I understand some people were like, well, they shouldn't need to hold your hand. Well, I mean, maybe not. But the point is, they did not. And I was not having a good time. I had no idea, I guess, compared to Mortal Kombat, like, the combos were trickier, the move list for Tekken 7 were ridiculous, there were no real good tutorials. Again, right before Street Fighter 6 came out, I went back and played Street Fighter 5. And I was actually having a much better time with it now and with the combo trials and all that. But at the time, I felt like I kind of wasted my money on these. I mean, that's how I felt at the time, okay? All right, there's nothing else to say about it. Moving on. Man, okay, I'm already gonna have to give this reminder. Dang. Okay, look, I love the next game coming up a lot. Actually, I'm gonna show you the next game. All right, real quick, we're gonna do the intro for it. All right, next up.
Get over here!
Mortal Kombat X. Okay, I liked it a lot when it came out. However, what I'm about to say might be slightly controversial to some people, because I know that Mortal Kombat X is, now regarded as probably one of the fan favorites within the FGC, okay? I get that. To me, when it came out, I liked it a lot. Like, I liked it a lot. I didn't love it as much as I loved Mortal Kombat 9. I just thought it was another great NRS game. That's all it was to me. Once again, I primarily bought Mortal Kombat for the story. That is the #1 reason why I bought any new game. My whole, like, how much I love or hate a game at this point is gonna be how much do I love or hate the story and the stuff you can do. All right, so as far as the story for Mortal Kombat X goes, I thought it was fine. My main issue at the time was I felt that the villains were not very threatening. I think I remember that being my main complaint, and that kind of lowered the game down for me. But I didn't think it was bad by any means, and I didn't hate the combat kids as much as everyone else did. I like Cassie and Takeda a lot. Like, I kind of wish they were in, well, not every game, but I would like them to be mainstays. I kind of wish. I know Mortal Kombat 1 announced recently Janet Cage. I kind of wish personally that had just been Cassie Cage, but oh wait, I forgot something. Real quick, let me show you guys this. Yeah, ha. Boom. So, I'm not a comic book guy by any means, but before Mortal Kombat X came out, I went and bought the comics because I was so excited for it and to see what the story had to say. I remember the guy talking to me and being like, well, if you like video game comics, we got some more over here on this shelf. And then I had to, like, correct him and be like, I love Mortal Kombat, not video game comics, but whatever. These comics are good, by the way, I think, mostly. So story mode was okay. I was still having a lot of fun in the crypt. I think the crypt was improved quite a bit, if I remember correctly. And I was still enjoying the towers to some extent. So gameplay wise, I evolved here as a player because this is the first time that I would go on to learn a proper combo. I could only do one combo for one character, and that combo was for Katana. And I found this video by this guy named Darius P. He's up on YouTube. And he showed me this cool combo you could do with katana, and I practiced it. And my whole strategy was just jump kick and land this combo. Those was like that's all I knew how to do. And I loved it. And I would I would take that online, and I remember I had this really cool experience. A funny experience of this guy yelling at me on the mic, and he was like, "You only know this one combo, bro. That's all you can do. That's all you got. You're bro. You're." Oh, and this is when I would go on to start learning about the competitive scene of Mortal Kombat, right? And I'd start looking up videos, and I'd be learning about the exploits of players like Sonic Fox, and I'd think, oh my God, that's so cool. If MKX had been the game to come up now, with everything I know now, I'd probably love it a lot more. I'd probably still think the same thing I do about the story, although I like the story more than... I'm getting ahead of myself. Next game. And unfortunately, I've run out of physical boxes. This was I guess MKX was the last physical game I got, or physical fighting game I got anyway, which is a shame because this next one is actually my favorite, but we're about to get into that. So the next game is Injustice 2. And we already established story, single player content. That's what I care about. I understand why some people might be angry at Injustice 2 in hindsight. I went back and looked at the footage basically. I get it. I get it now anyway. But at the time that I played Injustice 2, I didn't know fighting games well enough to know any of the complaints that people would have for it. I would never experience it, okay? I mean, sure, I'd experience like heavy zoning and all that, but to me, that's just like what the game is or what games are or fighting games are, because I never played any other fighting games. So to me, maybe actually even to this day, Injustice 2 was my favorite NRS game. Story-wise, I loved the story to Injustice 2. I loved all the character interactions. I think it might be one of my favorite DC stories ever. I tell people all the time, like, you should buy Injustice 2 just for the story. I loved the story mode so much. I think it was one of their best. Ironically, they don't really, I think they have the multiverse stuff. I should mention, I never played Injustice 1. I skipped Injustice 1. And I think they had like multiverse stuff in that one, but they don't really have it in Injustice 2. And I think it kind of made the game a lot better for me. I really loved the story to Injustice 2. But on top of just the story, the whole multiverse stuff that you could do, where you would go online and you would see these different multiverses like mini towers, and they'd have different modifiers, and then the different modifiers you could go through them to unlock the loot boxes, which you could unlock the loot boxes to attain gear, and then you can customize all your characters. The gear had like stats attached to it. I'm sure many people thought that this was stupid at the time. I did not. I thought it was so cool. The gear had stats, and some gear had different moves that you could use. And I was always looking for the sword for Robin or not the sword. Was it the sword? There was something for Robin that gave him a new move that I never could find. It kind of bums me out to this day, but regardless. That whole gameplay loop was just so much fun to me. I'm kind of surprised that no other one of their games has like a loop quite as addictive as Injustice 2. So for all those reasons, Injustice 2 was my favorite fighting game by a mile at the time. But it wasn't just that. I also really, really liked the gameplay to Injustice 2. Again, from my perspective, right? From the perspective of someone who didn't know a whole lot about fighting games. For example, like, I actually ended up really liking the whole back to block thing. Like, it's funny, Injustice 2 was the first game where I really had to use a lot of back to block, and it turned out I think I ended up enjoying it more than a block button. I thought clashes were really cool. Like when I forgot how they happened, but I thought when you guys clashed and then you would have to like kind of mini bet some of your meter. I thought that was a really cool idea. And one of your buttons, back 1, back 2 now, I think. Something like that. I don't remember. It was really easy to just start juggling someone, and I thought it always looked pretty cool. Stage transitions. Okay, granted, I get that they were really long, but I really, really loved stage transitions. I thought it was so cool. Yeah, oh man. I loved Injustice 2 a lot. And the most important thing that Injustice 2 did was it solidified something for me. It solidified that no other fighting game would ever be worth the money the way that an NRS game was. I think I did try a couple other fighting games in between these ones, but just like very briefly. Like maybe I tried Skullgirls for a little bit or something, right? But to me, NRS games were the only ones where I felt like this is worth the money. And it would still be that way for a little while, but not forever. Up until this point, NRS games were the ones that were worth the money. And up until this point, Injustice 2, that was still true. Okay, next game. Okay, so something kind of funny happened while I was writing the script. I got all the way up to Tekken 8, and then I realized I had forgotten about Mortal Kombat 11. That is embarrassing. So weirdly enough, with Mortal Kombat 11, my thoughts on it kind of mirror my thoughts for MKX that I had at the time, which was, so coming off Injustice 2, I still thought Injustice 2 had the best gameplay loop. Mortal Kombat 11, story-wise, actually, I really liked the story. Again, I really liked the story. I didn't quite like it as much as I liked the Mortal Kombat 9 story, but I still, actually, so it's kind of weird. Like technically what happens in the story, like the actual plot, I did not enjoy, but I really loved going through the story mode and seeing all the character interactions, and I thought some of the time stuff was kind of funny and kind of cool, and so overall I liked the story. I liked the story to Mortal Kombat 11. Gameplay wise, I didn't really have any issues with the gameplay. In fact, Mortal Kombat 11 was going to be the game that I was like, yo, I'm going to buckle down and learn this game. I'm finally going to learn a fighting game. I'm going to play every single character. I'm going to take them all online, and I'm going to... It didn't work. I didn't do it. I started to, but it didn't work. I remember the crypt being fun. I remember... What am I forgetting? I didn't like Chronica. I thought Liu Kang becoming the new Elder God was super cool. It's around this time I finally learned what frame data is as a concept, but not really how to apply it. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'd be repeating myself too much if I go on much longer about this one. My main point with Mortal Kombat 11 is I did not for a second regret buying it. I liked it quite a bit. I thought it was a great game, beautiful game, for sure. I loved a lot of the costumes. I love the way, I think Scorpion had like my favorite look in that game of any of them. So yeah, I don't know, not much else to say. Again, if you didn't like Mortal Kombat 11, I get why. I do get why. In fact, I now realize why stuff like Breakaway was such a stupid mechanic. It makes sense, but I just had no way to tell. So moving on. Okay. It is time for an intermission. Okay, we need to take a break from all this talking about all these older games to realize where we're sitting right now, because things are about to pivot. Okay, so where we're sitting right now. So at this point, here's my perspective on the three main fighting game franchises. At this point, I'm like, NRS is the only company who can make a game that's worth the money, that's worth full price, if you're gonna charge full price, right? Arcade mode, training mode, online, that didn't cut it for me. That was just never gonna hold my attention for any amount of time. But things are about to change in a pretty dramatic way. This is like a turning point for me, okay? But I'm still gonna stand by that I am a casual player. If at the beginning I told people to skip, this is the point that they would have skipped to. However, this is not the end of me talking about all the games. I think the games coming up are a little bit more important now for you to hear me out about, but if you're still like, no, I just want to hear you talk about Mortal Kombat 1 already, here's another skip. Let's keep it moving.
Soon you will know, we already know the smell of the game.
So now we get into Guilty Gear Strive. Like I said, this is a bit of a turning point for me. This is where people might start to argue that I am now straying away from the casual mindset. I will have a rebuttal for that when we get to Street Fighter 6, but for now, just stick with me. Okay, so if we're following the pattern of I'm pretty much judging these games solely on their story and single player content, well then I should probably hate Guilty Gear Strive, right? Because Guilty Gear Strive, well, first off, the lore is absolute nonsense. It is just, I tried, I can't. I don't like it. Okay, I don't like the lore to Guilty Gear Strive. And the story mode isn't actually playable. It's just like a long, really long cutscene, like a movie almost. However, like I had hinted at with Mortal Kombat 11, I wanted to start to buckle down and actually learn fighting games, like learn them properly. So I went out and I started researching arcade sticks, and then I learned about this thing called a hitbox, and I ended up ordering it online. I remember debating between Guilty Gear Strive and Grand Blue, and I saw that Grand Blue seemed to be the easier game, but everyone was saying Guilty Gear Strive had the better online, and I actually thought that Grand Blue looked like prettier as a game, but I ended up going with Guilty Gear Strive just because I had heard it had better online. Man, I learned so much from Guilty Gear Strive. I mean, Guilty Gear Strive made learning all these things really easy, and I really appreciate it for that. So I went from just doing like jump in kicks and doing the one occasional combo and having this vague idea about frame data to all of a sudden I'm learning about meaty attacks, I'm learning about Abare, and I'm learning about Okizeme. I'm learning about fuzzy blocking, anti-airs on the grounds. I mean, the mission mode to Guilty Gear Strive is so awesome. Like, that to me is the single player content of Guilty Gear Strive, and I spent so much time doing those trials. It taught me so much. I had so much fun learning. This game would forever change how I would play and learn fighting games because it was so easy to pick up and so simple. And I know a lot of people are probably mad at Guilty Gear for simplifying the franchise, right? I never played any of the older ones, but I've only seen the FGC's opinions thousands of times, right? I know, and there was this huge push. I remember Maximilian putting a video out a little bit ago. Well, it was a while ago now, about telling developers to stop simplifying your games. You don't need to simplify your games. I honestly believe that Guilty Gear simplifying things made things a lot easier for me. Okay, I enjoyed that every character had like universal Gatlings and a really small move list, and then what sucks is that once you learn more and more, you start to wish that the move list gets bigger. But I don't know, what are you gonna do? Also, Guilty Gear has the honor of forever ruining every other fighting game I'll ever play, because this guy's in it, Faust. I love Faust so much. He is the most fun character I have ever played in any fighting game. I don't even know why. I just love everything about him. I love his weird movements. I love his animations. I love that he gets to throw his head as a bomb. I love the random items. It's so much fun to me to like throw random items and try to figure out what to do from there. Even though I could even without, I don't know why I'm making things harder on myself, because I can barely handle the game without the items. But every other game is knocked a point down for not having Faust as a character. If I could have Faust in every single fighting game from here on out, I would. And so by now, I'm following every fighting game channel I can find. I'm following all of the EVO. I'm watching exhibition matches and online tournaments. I want to go to EVO now. Man, that is super exciting. I would even retroactively go back at this point and play a bunch of the fighting games that I had missed. So I went back and rechecked Skullgirls. Mostly did the combo trials for that. Went back and tried out again Dragon Ball FighterZ. I skipped over that one, but it turned out that one was a lot of fun. The one I regretted the most that I wish I had been there for from the beginning was easily Killer Instinct. Damn, I really hope they make a new one. But keep in mind that this picture that I showed you earlier, this has not changed for me. My opinion still hasn't changed. Even though I'm now seeing fighting games in a whole new light, to me it's still NRS. To me, NRS are the only ones that can make a good video game. No one else. NRS is still the king of making a great product and a great game. But obviously, this thing is gonna get flipped on its head here in a moment. I need to move on anyway, because this is gonna start getting into a Guilty Gear Strive review, which I'm neither qualified nor motivated to do.
All right, you ready? for my city, for my town. I do whatever it takes. I'm looking at the ground. See the time, see the sight, see the sight, see the sight, yeah.
Street Fighter 6.
Oh God. It's gonna be very difficult not to go overboard with this one because I love Street Fighter 6 so much. And I know that that in itself is not a very controversial opinion. And by the way, if you've gotten this far in the video and if for some reason you clicked on this video, for some reason you still haven't bought Street Fighter 6, please just stop the video and go out and buy it because you'll be doing yourself a huge favor. I can almost guarantee that you'll love it for one reason or another. You know, Street Fighter 6 is easily my favorite fighting game that has ever come out. I love just about everything about it and I love it all so much. I mean, we should do what we've been doing and start with the story and single player content. So Street Fighter 6 has World Tour as its main like story mode thing, right? Let's remember, this game, Street Fighter V, one of the worst story modes I've ever played. Hated it. World Tour though, I love it. I love World Tour so much. So I know I've been only showing like B-roll basically in the background of this video up until this point, but I really want to show you guys this. So as you can see, we're here in the World Tour mode, and I haven't done all of the missions as you can see on the map here, right? I still got plenty of missions to do. However, take a look at this. Yeah, that's me. What level is my character? He's like level, 92. Every time a new character pops up, I immediately, the first thing I do is go into the World Tour mode and max them out. And I didn't just do this for their second costume. I don't really play most of these characters well. I don't play any character well, but I did it because I loved spending time in this mode. I love so much about World Tour. I love that you get to walk around and that you get to see all these silly things going on. I love the environment. I love all the text messages that the characters sent. I love that we get to fight refrigerators. Especially what I really like about World Tour more than anything else is that it did the exact opposite that it did in Street Fighter V. It decided not to try to take itself very seriously. It didn't try to be like something that it wasn't, like some sort of weird Avengers Assemble nonsense, right? It decided to be this very silly, I've heard it's like Yakuza. I haven't played the Yakuza games, but it decided to play to its strength and be this very silly, very wacky little world that you could just explore and do missions in, and I appreciate that so much. But the good news is that there is way more to this game than just its story mode, right? If it was just a World Tour mode, I'd still probably have it up as one of my favorite games, but it's got a lot more than just the story mode, and I appreciate everything that this game has. Like, I love the battle hub. I know there's plenty of people online who are like, why do I need a battle hub? I can just go in the fighting ground and queue up for the menu. I like the battle hub because I like being able to hang around and see people chatting and just kind of feel like I'm like less alone basically while I'm playing ranked online. It's just a really nice vibe, and sometimes you can just find someone at a casual cabinet and have a fun time. I love if you go into the battle hub, man, a lot of this video is going to be dedicated to Street Fighter 6. But this is important. This game is important to what we're gonna finally be getting to at the end of all of this. So what I love about the battle hub is that you got all these crazy things. Like you got, obviously you can shop, but you got the extreme battles over here where you can play like basically like their version of Tekken Ball, which is just a bunch of nonsense. I love that you can come here to the game center and play like classic games. I could play Street Fighter 2. I can play like, this is just so cool. They didn't have to do all this, but you know, that's the sort of stuff that I appreciate. Character guides, plenty of cool combo trials. I love all the characters. I love them all quite a bit. I like Luke a lot, even though a lot of people don't like him. I like Luke. I like his like personality a lot anyway. I love modern controls. I don't use them personally, but I love that that's a thing in the game and that it just helps more people play Street Fighter. I think that's really cool, and I think the way it's been implemented and the way it kind of like, it seems to be like it's really useful at the lower ranks, and then it starts to become less useful at the higher echelons of competition, which again aren't relevant to me. But I think that's nice, right? I think modern controls is a really nice addition. I just love that Street Fighter 6 is so feature rich, and we haven't even talked about the gameplay yet. And I love the gameplay to Street Fighter 6 so much. Again, man, this should be about Mortal Kombat 1. I don't care, I'm gonna talk about it real quick. I love the drive system so much. I love that you start out with all your meter. I love all the things you can do with your drive system. I love that you got to make decisions with your drive meter at any given point. I love burnout. I think burnout is so cool. It makes for all these cool, stressful moments when you're watching games online. I love drive impact. I love watching someone use drive impact and the cool hit stop that happens when someone gets punch countered. Oh, I can remember so many great games from just like this. It's only been out like a year. I was there for the first Evo, and I remember that most of the like top sixes weren't that exciting on the last day. Like they were okay. The MBC3 one was okay. The Tekken one was okay. The Guilty Gear one was not that great. But the Street Fighter 6 one, the fervor in the crowd and the way everybody was screaming, and it was just, I need to move on. Okay, we are moving on from Street Fighter 6. All right, we're gonna quickly talk about Tekken 8. Obviously Mortal Kombat 1 came first, but that's the main subject of this video, so we're gonna save it for last. I don't have a whole lot to say on Tekken 8, only because a lot of it basically mirrors kind of what I said from Street Fighter 6. So kind of like how I had Street Fighter 5 and Tekken 7 together from before, you can basically have Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8 together, and it's pretty much the same thing. Again, we'll go over it real quick. Story mode, super cool. I think NRS could learn a lot from the story mode. Tekken Ball, lots of fun. I love that they have a lobby, even though it's not like my favorite lobby. I don't quite like it as much as the Battle Hub. Gameplay wise, I like Street Fighter 6 just a little bit more, because I guess maybe I just like the 2D combat more. I guess that's just a me thing. Arcade Quest. I freaking love Arcade Quest. I haven't finished it yet, but when I open Tekken 8, I'm mostly playing Arcade Quest. And so this is, remember I said I had a rebuttal when people would probably say I strayed away from the casual mindset. I still think I prefer the single, not prefer per se. I played a lot of Street Fighter 6 online by this point, and I'll play Tekken 8 online, but I still need that single player content to hold on to before I go on to the online stuff. I still, like, it's not just a bonus for me. I feel like for some people in the FGC, it's kind of like the online is first and foremost, and then, you know, if the game has extra like story or anything else like that, well, that's just like the cherry on top, right? But it's not the meat of the game. For me, it's almost the opposite, I think. It's almost as if, and it's not exactly like this, but it's almost as if the single player content is still the meat of the game, and the online stuff is just the cherry on top. Like once I'm done with the single player stuff, well then I'll go online whenever I feel like it. But I'm still playing other games. I've never dedicated myself to a fighting game as much as I wanted to, just because I don't feel like I ever have the time for it. But that's really what I'm trying to get across. With Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8, I love them because they are the entire package. They are everything I've ever wanted from fighting games. They're actually, both Tekken 8 and Street Fighter 6 are more of a package than anything NRS has put out so far, in my opinion. But I mean, I still love the NRS games, and now it's NRS's turn to wow us, right? Because it's been this many years. If Street Fighter V, if they could go from Street Fighter V to Street Fighter 6, they could go from Tekken 7 to Tekken 8. What the hell? We are in for a treat when we're going from Mortal Kombat 11 to Mortal Kombat 1, right? So by now, you should have a good idea of what I value in a fighting game. And it's probably a little different than what many other people in the FGC, or especially the FGC influencers or YouTubers, you know, what they tend to gravitate towards, what they tend to value in a fighting game. I still have never gotten to the highest rank in any fighting game, although I think I will eventually. I still need all that juicy single player content. I still need a good story mode, right? So far so good. So let's take a look at that chart again that I brought up a couple times. We'll look at it one more time, okay? This is the chart before Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8 and MK1. And here's the chart afterward. Do you see what happened? I probably don't even need to explain the rest, but for the sake of brevity, I guess, I will spell it out. First up, the story mode. Once again, with MK11, the story mode is technically, I mean, aside from being a little rushed towards the end, the character interactions are nice, right? But I hate the story mode in Mortal Kombat 1. I hate the story mode. I don't just not like it. I don't just think it's not great or it's okay. I will forever hate the story mode to Mortal Kombat 1 because it has made me stop caring for the lore of Mortal Kombat completely. Like I really don't want to think about Mortal Kombat anymore. As far as like Mortal Kombat was the only game where the lore itself was worth reading about outside of the game. I thought that the actual story was worthwhile. Like you could make good movies. You could make good movies out of the stuff that happens in this game. I thought it was so cool. I don't understand why they went the direction they went in. So for those who don't know, the story of Mortal Kombat 1 begins with Liu Kang as the new protector of Earthrealm, and he, due to some time shenanigans, he kind of had a hand in shaping what this new era was going to look like. And I was really excited for that. I was super excited for that. I was so excited to see what this new era of Mortal Kombat would look like with Liu Kang basically taking Raiden's place. That would be so cool. I mean, I thought that was going to be so cool. But as the story progresses, and they kind of did this with Mortal Kombat 11. Mortal Kombat 11 really teased like Dark Raiden really hard, and then they kind of just like, he was there at the beginning of the game, and then they kind of just, he's gone. Like no, you don't get to see Dark Raiden. And I was like, well, that's kind of lame, right? They do something even lamer here. So at the end of Mortal Kombat 11, Liu Kang has to fight Shang Tsung, and it turns out that, I guess canonically, there was a bunch of different, you can get a bunch of different endings depending on who wins the fight, when you win the fight, like what round you win the fight in, and that was cute and all, but I think I was thinking, like, I really hope they don't try to make all of these endings canon, and that's basically what they did. So now the Shao Kahn from the ending in which you lost a fight comes in, and now it's no longer just a timey-wimey story, it's like a multiverse sort of Marvel-like story. And especially towards the end, they try to do this whole Armageddon thing again, and then you got like, you're fighting different versions of all yourselves. Like you'll have Johnny Cage fighting Janet Cage, and I'm getting annoyed talking about it. I don't understand, like, I don't know if them just working on comic books stories have just like bled over into everything they do, and they just want everything to be like that. I guess we should have gotten a hint of it. It was kind of getting like this weird Marvel-esque vibe from the outfits back in MK11, but I hoped that they were going to keep it more grounded. But unless you're Marvel, whenever you introduce this multiverse stuff, all you do is dilute the characters that we've come to know and love. You didn't even give us really a chance to know and love these characters yet. You just diluted them right off the bat. Because I'm like I always think in these multiverse stories, like, why are we following this multiverse version when it's just like, we know there's every single thing, like every possibility is happening in these multiverse stories. I'm not gonna name names, but there's another show I was watching on one of the streaming services that also, like, the first season was great. Second season, they started adding this multiverse stuff in. It turns out the multiverse version of the character we've been following is like the complete opposite of him. And then I'm like, well, then who is this character? I don't understand why they find this appealing. All it does is dilute all of the interesting stuff. And they were kind of doing something interesting where like they're rebooting the series again, but each reboot is canonical. Like it's still like one continuous story, but we get to see a start over and we get to see new things happen. And that was really cool. I don't understand why they needed to add this multiverse stuff. And because of that, because the story was so disappointing, I mean, that alone made me regret spending full price on the game, right? Because I buy Mortal Kombat because it's Mortal Kombat. I don't care if Mortal Kombat or NRS games are the pristine fighting game experience. I don't. I would like them to be, but I buy Mortal Kombat because I love Mortal Kombat, or I did, anyway. But the lame writing of Mortal Kombat 1 is still only one of the things I don't like about it. Okay, so it's not, that alone is not, it might have been enough for me to say I regret buying this game, but it's not the only reason. Invasions, which is the other game mode that Mortal Kombat 1 has. Again, I don't get why Injustice 2 had such a fun gameplay loop. I don't understand why they strayed away. Even Mortal Kombat 11's Crypt I found to be a little more interesting of a gameplay loop than whatever we get in Invasions. It just feels like slow and random. Street Fighter 6's World Tour and Tekken 8's Arcade Quest, they help you learn the game as you're playing. It's kind of trying to show you something new about the game. Like in Street Fighter 6, you have to do this, I think it's like karate chopping mini game thing where you're doing like I forgot what you have to chop. But basically what you have to do is you have to input a charge motion, but the game never says it's a charge motion, but it's a charge motion that you're doing. The game is teaching you charge motions in a way that doesn't feel like it's trying to give you a tutorial. Arcade Quest is something similar where they'll just give you like a mini tutorial in between all these matches, and then they'll put it up on the screen and you get to try to apply it. I guess the way to describe it's like Invasions is like a slower, less well thought out, really drawn out tower. And towers are towers. In MK9 they were novel because it was the first time I saw them. Now they're kind of boring. I mean, they're boring. Most people, when they're talking about why they don't like Mortal Kombat 1, will talk about the mechanics. I don't hate the mechanics. I do find them to be a little, it's definitely less interesting to watch than the other games. Again, the drive system in Street Fighter 6 just makes it so much fun to watch. I kind of do wish that they had done something a little more exciting with the meter. I appreciate that Fatal Blows are a little better. I think the cameo system is a good idea. I like the idea of it. It does feel kind of sluggish and slow. I realize that if you've played a tag fighter and you try to go into Mortal Kombat 1, it's going to feel very limiting. I get that. I'm realizing now there's more issues with the gameplay, but I myself don't have like the foresight to uncover those problems myself. I can get a sense that this is like not as exciting as it could be, but I can't pinpoint why. So again, let's look at this chart again. It feels like the jump between Street Fighter V and Street Fighter 6 was magnificent. And the jump between Tekken 7 and Tekken 8, even though Tekken 7 was a great game with a lot of great stories and a lot of great competition, as a video game, the jump between Tekken 7 and Tekken 8 was huge. And the jump from Mortal Kombat 9 to Mortal Kombat 1, it's almost, some might argue it's gone down a little bit. Some might argue it's gone like up a little bit in terms of quality. I'd pretty much argue that it's basically leveled out. It's basically as exciting, if not a little less, than Mortal Kombat 9. So while NRS games have kind of stagnated, Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8 have been able to surpass it by a mile. And now that I have those games, why the heck would I ever want? I had no urge to play Mortal Kombat 1 after I played the story and played Invasions for like 5 minutes. And I know I'm not the only one who feels this way. I don't have a lot of people around here who play fighting games, but there is this one guy I met recently at like a card game store, and we were just talking, and we were talking about Mortal Kombat 1 before it came out, and he was like, oh my god, Mortal Kombat 1, dude, I'm so excited. I played every single Mortal Kombat. I've already pre-ordered the game. I played the beta already, and I loved it. You know, and I was like, oh, that's cool, and we're talking about it. We're having a good time, and then Mortal Kombat 1 comes out. I see him like a couple weeks later or something, and I'm like, I feel bad. I haven't played it at all, so I didn't want to like admit to him that I was like talking to him about Mortal Kombat 1. I'm like, yeah, I haven't really played it at all. So I go to talk to him, and he's like, and I'm like, well, how are you enjoying Mortal Kombat? And he's like, I haven't played it at all. Haven't really wanted to. I know this guy, he hasn't bought Street Fighter 6. He's still a bigger casual than I am, in that he probably only ever played NRS games, doesn't own a fight stick. And I know that this was probably a long-winded way to explain why I didn't like Mortal Kombat 1, but I really wanted everyone to understand that I'm coming from a different place. There's plenty of videos talking about the gameplay of Mortal Kombat 1. All those videos are fine, they're valid. There's plenty of videos talking about, you know, the microtransactions and the skins and I don't care about, not that I don't care, but none of that is make or break for me. None of that will make me regret buying Mortal Kombat 1. Like the way that the story mode and invasions made me regret buying Mortal Kombat 1. Especially if you consider buying a game as like voting for your wallet, I feel terrible putting as much or more vote in Mortal Kombat 1 versus Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8. Because I definitely think both those games deserve more of our vote. Okay, and at the end of this, I should add a couple caveats here. Okay, obviously, some people will still argue that I'm not quite the player that NRS is targeting. I mean, if you still think that, that's fine. There's not much I can do about that. Number two, I haven't talked at all about fatalities and again, I haven't talked about microtransactions or anything like that, but especially the fatalities, because people say fatalities are a big part of the identity of Mortal Kombat, right? I do agree that fatalities, I don't think you can have a good not a good one, but like a Mortal Kombat game without fatalities. However, fatalities are not why I play the game. And in fact, sometimes most of them are funny. Some of them start to get a little too, I think some do go a little too far. I don't know if some people might feel like they can never go too far. I don't feel that way. Again, I don't play Mortal Kombat for the fatalities or the gore. In fact, when I was a kid, that's what kept me from playing it for so long. Like all the fatalities in Mortal Kombat 9 were kind of just silly, fun, and like, oh, that's crazy. I remember there's this one fatality in Mortal Kombat 11 where Garrus will like toss someone on a rock, and then he'll like tear them in half, but from like I don't know how to describe it, from like the front, from like this half of you, like this, cut you down the middle, but like he'll cut you down the middle, but like here-ish. I remember seeing that on Cassie Cage, and oh my god, I did not, like, that's not fun. And then Mortal Kombat 1's newest fatality with the Thanksgiving one, it's not for me. I'll play Mortal Kombat regardless. If you play Mortal Kombat for the fatalities, which I'm sure plenty of people argue that that's why people buy Mortal Kombat games, I'm not one of those people. So I guess in that regard, I defer from the casual audience. Okay. Man, that was probably way too much. Okay, if you didn't skip around during the video, thank you very much for watching and hearing me out. I really appreciate it. If you did skip around in the video, but you made it to this point, well, A for effort, I guess. Anyways, that's it for me, guys. Thank you for watching and listening to me, and adios.